Hey everyone, this is a clip from a recent episode of Another Pass, where we talk about movies and all the struggles that go into making them. If you like it, check out the whole podcast. You can find it at certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Well, let's talk a minute about what we're doing here and then the franchise in general. So it's been a while since we've taken on a full franchise. So we are doing the Planet of the Apes movies, the original ones. And we are going in reverse order. So today we are talking about the fifth Planet of the Apes movies and discussing what we would do, assuming that the first four came out and you're kind of stuck with all the production behind the scenes stuff that was required of you at this point.
Right.
It's been a while since we've done that. Like, our big one was we did the Star Wars movies in reverse. And I'm excited to talk about this one because just like, I love this franchise so much. like it's one of my favorites.
Me too. Yeah, my dad is really into old westerns, old filmmaking. Something that he introduced me to at a young age was the original Planet of the Apes film, and just he was enthralled by how lifelike the masks were to him as a kid, and showing them to me, I was also just like, how are they doing this? And so from a really young age, I was really latched into practical effects, and that's something that's lasted through to this day. But this movie series is like the origin of me looking at things like this and going like, how would you do that? Like, if I wanted to make a monkey mask, could I do that? That it was early formative stuff. Really, really important series to me. And then for the remakes to be as good as they have been, I feel really like spoiled for riches at this point, because the remakes have been insanely good too. And so I'm like, I mean, you got some goofy ones, you got some good ones, you got some big budget, like modern blockbuster versions, you've got old, slower, like you've got everything. Everything is in this series. Everything.
Yeah, I mean, eventually we're going to talk about Escape, but like you get into like your 70s slice of life comedy at some point in this franchise.
Exactly.
Like, all right, cool.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, you mentioned the remakes that have come out. I wouldn't really consider them remakes so much as the other points on the fractured timeline that this weird time travel ape movie thing. Because like, I have a headcanon that makes this whole thing work really well. Like the 8. I like, obviously you have to throw out the Tim Burton movie because that's just not part of anything. Like it was a Tim Burton.
So red right now. I would like the listeners to know that. I'd like to describe that he is getting red with embarrassment and explaining why he's throwing away the Tim Burton movie. Go on.
I mean, the Tim Burton one was one of our first episodes of the show.
Oh, wow.
So listeners should go back and check that one out, because it was a really fun conversation with Jeff Moonen talking about that, because the show launched around the time that War for the Planet of the Apes came out, so it made sense to do an episode at the time that was like kind of coming out. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
But the Tim Burton one, like, it just feels like the smattering of here's all these ideas that go into the franchise, whereas if you look at the Andy Serkis ones, like, they actually fit from a perspective for all of, like, as part of this whole like weird time travel story, because in Rise there's a point where or actually several points in the background where they talk about the Icarus shuttle, that they've lost contact with it and so forth.
Yeah.
So you can see that as like the actual starting point of the timeline. And then you go through those movies, then you go to the original Planet of the Apes movies, which is set in the future. And then you've got 2 movies set in that future timeline. And then you have apes from the future go back in time, and that creates a splintered timeline. But it also, one of the weird like continuity snarls of the original Planet of the Apes movies was like, all right, so Cornelius and Zira come back in time and they have a baby, and that explains why that there is a super smart ape in our time, but it doesn't explain why by the time you get to battle, everyone can fucking talk when it's only like 30 years in the future. It's like our past for us right now.
Right.
Like, but it works if you understand that all the apes in the future had a virus that was causing them to become super intelligent. So the baby coming back and being around apes would actually make them all smarter over time.
Interesting.
Right. That makes sense, because he would spread that virus.
And I think my one regret of the modern Planet of the Apes movies is that they don't have a note at some point that all the dogs and cats die by virtue of the virus that makes the apes smart, because I think that would perfectly like cement all the things together.
Yeah.
Because like, we know that virus happens between Escape and Conquest, where all the dogs and cats die, and all of a sudden the apes are smart enough at least to be slaves, and like, you know, they start, you know, coming close to talking. One kind of talks at the end, you know. you get there, and then you get to this movie and they're all fucking talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I don't understand why that would undo the need for the Tim Burton one to be like just a spin-off.
I mean,
universe.
it could just be some weird offshoot,
Yeah.
like way off out there, like in space. Oh, the apes are getting smarter. Why is that? Oh, well, I guess a monkey traveled back in time and it exposed us all to mind-advancing viruses, and that's all that. But it does feel like its own separate thing.
I want it to be in the orbit. I want it to be like, a planet X that can swing in through the solar system for a second.
Well, it's still like, so the Tim Burton one, Battle and Beneath, are tied for me for like the last place, and they each have something interesting going on for them that prevents them from being like fully written off as a movie. Like
Totally.
The Tim Burton one, the special effects are incredible. Like that,
next level insane. Yeah, that movie looks so good.
Yeah, I just can't get over it. Like, it's the only one that really sells with a prosthetics perspective how big the gorillas are relative to everyone else.
Right.
I think that's so incredible. The face work is incredible. The fact that they do really good stuff with like appendages and so forth.
I mean, it helped that they put prosthetics on Michael Duncan, who's a giant.
Yes, a choice that I'm like, why is this the first time we're thinking
right.
of it? Like,
Yeah.
Like, if the gorillas are supposed to be huge,
Lou
like,
Ferrigno was doing stuff back then. He could have been a gorilla.
Well, like especially for the Planet of the Apes movies, like, why not just cast giant people and dub it? Because like it's not like you can't, like, it's not like you're getting the audio from them in the performance.
Yeah.
Like,
Right. Yeah.
Like, you're definitely dubbing at least a sizable amount of these because the prosthetics just make it difficult to talk.
Yeah, exactly.
So cast fucking basketball players.
Excellent point. Yeah, never even thought about that. You're right. It's mostly dubbed. Go on.
Like, pull a Predator 2. Hire the basketball team to come out for, like, every time you need a couple shots where gorillas are standing next to anyone.
Right.
And then, like, just roll with that.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But so Tim Burton, like, the special effects are incredible, but, like, the plot is nonsense, and all the dynamics are just, like, weird and funky. Beneath has its issues, and we'll talk about Beneath a lot when we get to it, but it was just always doomed to be the sequel to Planet of the Apes. Like, like, where do you go from that first one? I don't know, man. Like, what about fucking mutants? Like,
it's the logical next step. What are you talking about?
Well, and it's not unheard of, because like the Jules Verne stories,
Oh yeah, like the center of the earth.
Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Journey to the Center of the Earth. That's it.
The time machine, like you've got, your kind of future people messing with monkey people and that. Like there's a lot of sci-fi crossover bake in Planet of the Apes just across this. Like, this movie, if you stop and look at it sideways, is kind of Dune. It's a little bit Dune. There's a lot of Dune in here.
Yeah. I was thinking about that today.
Yeah,
actually. I was like,
there's a lot of political intrigue.
Yeah,
and
not to spoil my pitch too much, I would lean into that more. If that's really where you want to go with this, I would lean into that a little bit more. It, like, the stuff that I like in Battle is the political stuff, and to know what has come before in the previous 4 movies, like the just absolute separation of genre throughout. I think it's kind of this feels like a whole thought. Like this movie, when we talked about it initially, Case, when I brought up like wanting to do this one, the reason for it was compared to all but the original. I think this is the tightest like summation of all the ideas that had zeitgeisted into Planet of the Apes at that point. Like this is kind of everything it could be at that time.
Remember, if you like that clip, check out the podcast. You can find it at certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.